Joining me now, three of the country's best political analysts. In Washington, we have Diana West, columnist for the Washington Times. Here in New York, Errol Lewis, columnist for the New York Daily News, and syndicated columnist Miguel Perez. And thanks for being here. You know, let's bring ahead to next week. On Monday, defense authorization bill will be taken up by the Senate. We already had this past week Senator Pete Domenici breaking ranks with the president on the war in Iraq. How do you assess the entire debate on the defense spending bill and the Iraq issue? Miguel, let's start with you.
Well, the Senator Domenici, I think, and Lugar and others are positioning themselves for the next election. They're all running for re-election, and they're basically taking a middle-of-the-road position here. They're not saying, I want to withdraw troops immediately, I don't want to cut funding. What are they really saying? They're saying, I want to be in the middle so that the voters can be a little confused about who I really am.
Confuse the voters sounds like a great strategy. Diana?
Well, that could well be what they have in mind. They haven't done anything truly brave or striking here. What we're seeing is a break, half of which I personally agree with. American soldiers should not be looking for American security going house to house in Iraq cities. But the second shoe that drops in all of the Republican senatorial statements is that they want to fall back to the Iraq Study Group, which I think is just as unrealistic as the current Bush strategy. The Iraq Study Group calls on Iran and Syria to help us quell unrest in Iraq, and furthermore wants to delegate Iran's nuclear ambitions to the UN Security Council, which means Russia and China. So this isn't a new strategy. This is a different, more of the same.
Errol?
New Mexico is a purple state. Sometimes it goes red, sometimes it goes blue. You've got a Republican in the Senate, Domenici. You've got a Democratic governor who's running for president, Bill Richardson, who's a real Democrat. It went for Gore. New Mexico did. It also went for Bush. So you've got to sort of look at the real politics of it. He's up for re-election. He knows that the public, not just in New Mexico, but really all across the country, is really closely divided on this. And he and other Republican senators, they don't want to, they want their majority back if they can get it. They certainly don't want to lose any more seats. So I think what you're seeing is the first bit of, not panic, but real serious political concern that they're going to ride this Iraq war into a catastrophic defeat at the polls next year.
It really does beg the question, though, is President Bush losing political capital by the second? This week he commuted Louis Scooter Libby's prison sentence. He says a full pardon may not even be out of the question. How is all this affecting him politically? Miguel?
Oh, he's definitely losing political capital, and I think what he did with Libby thus far, and the pardon is still out there, as we know, but what he's done thus far really, I mean, you know, basically he sends out a message to the rest of the world that in this country some people are above the law. And it happens, you know, some other presidents have done the same thing, of course, with pardons. But this one in particular, this is a member of his administration that he's basically pardoning already. I mean, basically saying he doesn't have to go to jail. He got the little pass that we all get when we play Monopoly.
The White House has basically railed against President Clinton and Hillary Clinton for remarks they made about this pardon. Let's take a look at what Tony Snow said. I don't know what Arkansas is for chutzpah, but this is a giant case of it. You know, he was referring to the Clinton's decision to pardon 140 people on his last day in office. Is there a bit of duplicity in this, Diana?
Well, I would agree. I mean, the Clinton pardon list was a group of mountebanks and criminals that is really historic in its dimension. We had terrorists, drug dealers, financial fugitives, all of this. I think that the Scooter Libby commutation I'm not sure the president would have done it had he not lost on the amnesty bill. I think he was reaching out to the base. I think it was the appropriate decision myself, because I think that there was no underlying crime in this whole prosecution. We knew the leaker, or rather the prosecutor knew the leaker was out of the State Department for years and continued this what I think was a very political prosecution, that name in the State Department being Richard Armitage. But I think that the president was trying to do something that he thought his base would approve of, and I'm not sure that he would have felt that way had he won on amnesty. But
I think there are two things going on here. One is, first of all, Tony Snow is right. It does take a lot of nerve for somebody in the Clinton camp to sort of raise this question on this particular issue, but that doesn't mean that it's not a problem. I mean, what he did is terrible for really two important reasons. One is that This administration argued over and over again that there should be no departures from the very harsh federal sentencing guidelines. And this is a case where he just threw it away. He didn't even consult with his attorneys. He just sort of like dictated it. And then secondly, it really does raise the question of not necessarily a cover-up, but certainly by not giving him the full pardon, which he could have done. By not giving him that, it now enables Scooter Libby to say, well, I have an appeal pending. I haven't been fully pardoned. I'm sorry, I can't come to Congress and tell you what else I know. So what they're really trying to do is dampen this down, stop any further inquiries, and that stinks.
And also an effective way to do it is to do it this week, when it really is a very slow news week and a holiday week for many Americans. We'll be right back in a minute. Stay with us.
College is a great investment. It means better career opportunities and more earning potential. But it's expensive, and how you pay for it is important. Some students pay using high-interest credit cards. Some parents use their retirement savings or refinance their home to help out. Fortunately, there's a smarter way. First, apply for federal loans and grants. Then, if you still need help covering college expenses, consider an education loan from National City. You can get up to $40,000 per year. You can pay it back after you graduate, and you can use the money for all kinds of education-related expenses, not just tuition. At National City, we've helped hundreds of thousands of students go to college, and we know the best time to arrange college financing is now. Call or visit us online. Get up to $40,000 per year and pay it back after you graduate. With a parent or other cosigner, you may have a better chance of approval, and you may be eligible for a better rate. Apply by phone or online. It only takes a few minutes, and when approved, you can get your money in about a week. College is a great investment, and an education loan from National City is the smart way to pay for it without risking retirement savings, home equity, or using high-interest credit cards. At National City, we've been helping students and parents make smart decisions about college financing for over 40 years, and we'd like to help you too. So call now and ask about an education loan from National City. You can get up to $40,000 per year. You can use the money for tuition, room and board, school transportation, even a new laptop. And best of all, you can pay it back after you graduate. So don't delay. Call 1-800-769-0478 or visit us online at smarterwaytopay12.com right now. That's 1-800-769-0478 or visit us at smarterwaytopay12.com. Call now.
Closed captioning hours provided by Capsaicin. Fast-lasting relief make pain powerless.
Arthritis pain's debilitating.
Capsaicin works differently, blocking pain for fast-lasting relief. Capsaicin cream and new no-mess applicator
Takes the pain out of arthritis.
And we are back now with our panel, and let's go straight to the campaigns, which are really fun to talk about, especially because some of the money is showing up, and it's been interesting. Senator Barack Obama trails Hillary Clinton in the polls, but leads her in money. Miguel, what do you make of this?
That means he's got time to spend money, and that's what it's all about. In this particular presidential election, it's all about who's got the money and how long they can last. That's the problem we're seeing with McCain. They're saying he may not be able to last past Iowa and New Hampshire because he's been able to raise very little money. So it really is about the money this time.
Yeah. Diana?
Well, I think the money and the polls are out of step with one another. I mean, I think that the money in Senator Obama's case shows that there is great hope for him that he will develop into a viable candidate. But I think the polls reflect that he doesn't really excite people when he opens his mouth in his political acumen and his speeches. So it's an interesting, I think there will be probably some kind of catch-up here eventually, but we're so early that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, Clinton is just a lot closer to closing the deal, and she has closed the deal with a lot of voters. That's what you're seeing in the polls, that people who either liked her husband or like what they've heard from her, she's been campaigning really nationally for quite a while now. They're locked in and they're going with Clinton. Obama has got a much tougher job, and he's going to need all of that extra money to introduce himself over and over again to people who still maybe didn't see him, you know, at the national convention in 2004, don't know his history and want to know more before they'll feel comfortable. There's so much at stake with so many different issues right now that people are not going to lightly throw their allegiance to an unknown, even a very attractive one.
And Senator, as you point out, Senator Clinton has a great asset at her side. Let's listen to what she said about Bill Clinton campaigning with her.
been so much fun having Bill with me the last couple of days. We've had a great time traveling across Iowa. It is so much like what we did for all those years in Arkansas.
There has been some discussion, though, that he might be slightly upstaging her. Do you think that that's a problem, Miguel?
Absolutely, and I don't think it's an asset for her. I mean, you know, the guy shines brighter than she does wherever they stand together, and I think that, you know, if the media is going to continue to cover that angle of the story. What is he doing to overshadow her? How is she overshadowing her? That hurts her.
You know, it's an interesting gender switch. In the past, you'd have a very strong male candidate. They might have their wife maybe step forward a little bit to try and soften them around the edges. That's really what Bill is doing for Hillary here. She comes across as strong. All of the polls show it. People are confident in her ability to lead. They wonder, though, if she's really going to connect with them. And then there he is to bite his bottom lip and, you know, choke on his words a little bit and mist up when he's talking about 9/11. And I think it's going to work.
But I think he demonstrates that he is a lot more human than she is, more compassionate. He makes people cry. He makes people laugh. And somehow she doesn't get around to doing that very
often. The subjective assessment is often very important. Go ahead, Diana.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we had 8 years of Bill Clinton misting up for the camera, and then in some situations at funerals, et cetera, for Ron Brown, if people remember that, stopping when the camera was up. I mean, there's a lot of phoniness to this emotional quotient with the Clintons, and it really depends on how much the relationship reminds people about what we really didn't like about those 8 years, which had to do with so much of the backstage scandals at the White House that Senator Clinton has managed to avoid discussing for most of her own political career. So it's really, what kind of trip down memory lane we take remains to be seen.
It makes for great campaign watching, though, however. Thanks very much for being with us this weekend. Errol Lewis, Diana West, and Miguel Perez, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Please join us tomorrow for all of us here. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Good night from New York. This Week at War starts right now with Tom Foreman.